Ooh, Jesus.
I don't think we should do that high. What,
Well, that's why we have it.
Yes, ma'am.
We're being transparent.
yes, I agree.
He heard my
Okay,
cry.
your turn, Robert. Nobody cared but these folks. That's so wonderful.
They don't need to be here, but it's still open to them if they want to be.
But she didn't invite the world.
The who?
The world.
Hey, are y'all on the
We're
same
ready
page?
now.
Yeah, we're
We're ready now. I called you.
We've been here. Okay.
He said, and I told him, no, give us a minute.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Montgomery County Board of Education have a special called board meeting Tuesday, May 15, 2018, Central Auditorium Office.
You turn the sound off.
This meeting is now called to order. We do have a quorum with all members present. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the agenda as printed.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda as printed. Any discussion? Hearing none, those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. It is unanimous. So number 4 on the agenda here is the receiver's information, superintendent's contract.
Mr. President, is now the time to discuss it?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I want to start out by saying, first of all, that I have really enjoyed Dr. Moore being our interim, and I am excited that she has agreed to be our permanent superintendent. And I've heard a lot of good things from her, from our staff and those. I feel like they have a lot of confidence in her, and that's a good thing. What I'm concerned about is the fact that we're in proration, and the first reason we were put in, or not proration,
Intervention.
intervention.
Say that so long.
And one of the first
Proration
reasons.
to
prison.
Well, proration is what caused
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
beginning in 2008. But we won't go back that far, but the intervention was because originally for financial reasons. And I've gone back and I've done my homework, and I've looked at the progressive school districts across the state, and those that have over 20 mills of local property taxes, those are generally the ones that pay their superintendents the highest amounts. And we would still be higher than most of those if we accept this contract for $227,500, plus the housing and the automobile allowance. So I would like to make a motion that we go back and reconsider and try to come up with something that is more feasible for this district at this time.
I would second that.
Okay, the motion has been placed that we go back and look at something that would be more feasible. What's the pleasure of this board?
I think we need to
Did
look
you
at,
open it up for discussion? Ed?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I absolutely have seen more in Dr. Moore than any superintendent that I have worked under, and I mean that. In fact, I just complimented her based on looking at the certified personnel. This is actually the first time I've ever looked at a list of certified personnel and seen the changes of what I have called for 3.5 years made-up positions be decreased and these people being moved into teacher slots. So I could not be more happy with Superintendent Moore. I would love to be able to keep Superintendent Moore. I would rate her at this point, based on just the certified list, an 8. My not a 10 comes from the history of knowing what she left in Huntsville. I cannot get the fact that they were in the red out of my head. And it's the only thing I disagree with is this contract in its base salary of $227,500. We also have never, ever paid any superintendent a housing allowance that was permanent. And if you'll go back to Barbara Thompson days, we paid a moving allowance. I could see a moving allowance. The fact that she isn't interested in a moving allowance concerns me in the fact that, is she really coming here to live here? To ask for internet, I think that's on the extreme. I think $1,750 a month times 12, and then you take, your car allowance of $1,000, you are looking at basically $260,000 when we have a state superintendent with a base of $245,000. It just seems to me irresponsible if this board does anything up in $200 and over, and that's where I have and take issue with it.
Mr. President, I have a motion and I have a second, and I call for the question.
Okay, is there
Well,
any
now,
other discussion?
on readiness, this was just for discussion. We need to talk as a board. We just heard from the two of you
Okay, well then
about
we'll
the
keep.
salary.
Okay, then I'll retract that last.
Okay, because we've only heard from the
I
two of
agree,
you.
Ms. Briers, I apologize.
I too have a concern about the 500 because of the fact that we are in intervention, and we were until yesterday talking about outsourcing the people that need their jobs the most. But since the state superintendent has gone ahead with the sale of Georgia Washington, and if I understand correctly, if the paper was correct, that they are not going to be outsourcing for 2018, 2019.
Just for that 1 year.
So, but that's 1 year. But this money is supposed to just be helping us for 1 year. It's no, I mean, it's not gonna really solve our problems, but, that's neither here nor there, because that's not my discussion. The only thing that I thought perhaps we could talk about it, and we could make a decision, because just for you and Lisa, to just throw figures out there, that's not the intention of this. We have to be transparent and discuss it, and all the members of the board, or at least 4 members of the board, should be in compliance with this. My concern is, like I said, about the amount of this. And I do know that we have given car allowances. You were not on the board, Lisa, when we did. I would hope that we could perhaps, on the car allowance, perhaps rent a car for Dr. Moore at a price cheaper than $1,000 a month. But I would be amenable to a $200,000 salary as opposed to $227,500. That's my opinion.
Are you saying taking away the auxiliary, the car and the housing allowance, capping it at $200,000 per year?
The base salary of $200,000 a year and a car allowance, rent a car for her or whatever. This is not her home. I don't see some of the other things here, because if you take under consideration the things that are listed in here, and Spud may need to address concerns. You've done contracts for superintendents before, and I do know, I think we did pay Barbara Thompson car allowance, and
We did. It was.
And we're paying her $700 right now. If she's already gone out and bought a $700, payment car and used this, for 4 months, now we're getting a new car for another $300? I'm not understanding.
Where do you come up with these figures you're throwing out?
We pay her $700 a month in a car allowance right now. We know that.
So that contract
So now this is
ends the
$1,000.
30th of-
So what's the other $300, Ms. Briers? We're getting a new car in 4 months?
Let me just interject. I, as well as you, Ms. Myers, I looked at the $1,000 a month for car allowance. I've already contacted some dealerships here in Montgomery. We can, and we're talking about a car that certainly would be a suitable vehicle, somewhat on the luxury side, which would run this board in the neighborhood of $300,000 let me get the figures correct, because I don't.
300,
No, it's like $289 per
we'll
month.
round it out to
$300 a month. So that, and I think in the contract it says lease or for purchase, but we could lease a car for about $300 per month. That would save the board.
save $700 a month.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We already looked for a 2-year lease that they would be willing to do. And it's with one of the partners that we have in education, which is Hyundai. And I've spoken to the representatives, and they will certainly provide a vehicle. I think I look at the Sonata and the Elantra. Either one of those would go for the $300 over a 2-year lease. Also, when we look at the housing, we have paid for housing when a superintendent moves out of one area to another. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Spud, if you would correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we paid Barbara Thompson something, we're in the neighborhood of 17 when she came in.
So I own the contract that I pulled with Ms. Evans.
I wish you had pulled.
We didn't pay a housing salary for Thompson.
We've never paid housing for my
understanding, we
understanding.
gave her a house.
No, no, sir.
No, we did
No,
not.
we didn't.
That
No,
was
that
for
was,
sale, and we lost our shirt on that.
That was about.
That-
We swore we'd never do that again.
Did we all do
That's
that?
right.
That was Dr. Purcell, we did, but things,
I'm positive of that.
and we got stuck with that.
Yeah, we're not, we decided we would never do that again, Mr. Porterfield.
Okay,
So,
well, let's, I tell you what,
I see you all communicating, y'all wanna share that with us?
where I am, Mary, I think, let the board get out all of the
Okay,
concerns that the board has today. And if we would get out all of our concerns as relates to, the housing, certainly the car allowance, as well as the base salary, then we can present where we are. Then this contract, I'm sure that you all could go back, make some adjustments, and bring another contract that would possibly be something that the board could work with.
Kim is going to get, Ms.
Barbara
Thompson's
Thompson's contract, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that we did something for her for housing.
We didn't.
Well, I don't think we did, and I'm not, if she's coming here, what is wrong with the moving allowance? I just don't, I mean, if she's moving here, we give her a moving allowance.
That's what we did for Ms. Thompson. We paid a moving, we paid
Allowance.
for her to move down here, but we did not pay a housing allowance for her. We paid a car allowance.
Let's look and review
We
that
just
part of
gave
that
her a
contract, and I think it will be for sure. And I don't think we need to guesswork it if we don't.
Well, now, we need to, this is the purpose of this meeting, to discuss this, receive it as information, and take action.
That's
So
correct.
we need to do whatever we're gonna do today, we don't need to put this off,
No, we
because
don't.
we have put it off
Well, that
before. But
would
we
be.
have to also talk to the person we're talking about
Yeah.
and see what she feels about
What she
this.
thinks about it. What she's thinking about and how she feels about it. I also took a look, if you would,
Melissa,
Melissa.
What did you
I
just
looked
say?
at I did the research also. And my research showed me that the highest paid superintendent is in Jefferson County, which is at 228.5, I believe. I also looked at the fact that, I think Mobile
But they have
Certainly.
60,000
But-
students.
yeah, and the thing
and not
about
only
it is,
that,
And they're not in
in
intervention right now either.
not only that, at a $227,000 range, this would be our paying the second highest
Right,
rate for a superintendent in the entire state of Alabama.
correct.
Recognizing that we are at the minimum that is required by the state as far as ad valorem taxes, and certainly we are in what we call a financial bind. I would hope that Dr. Moore would take all of that in consideration when we look at maybe some type of revisions to the contract as far as pay is concerned. And I am reminded of a pioneer in early education who came from Hampton, Virginia, didn't have a place to stay, and certainly was very concerned about the education of young boys and girls. And she came here and started a school, and that school is Georgia Washington. And her pay certainly wasn't anything like what we see things are today. But I think dedication and commitment to education and helping children plays a significant role in those who are certainly for children and helping them to be the best that they can be in life as far as their future is concerned. Those who work hard to prepare children today to meet the challenges of tomorrow in a world that they have not yet seen. So if we would take all of those things in consideration, and hopefully Dr. Moore will, and I believe as conversations before, she's dedicated to public education, and I hope that we can present something to her that will be satisfactory on both ends, because certainly at this point, we need to move forward. I think she is the person to help us move out of this intervention, and that is something at this point in critical time that we need.
Mr. Porterfield, if I may, address the board. Obviously, this is my first time to sit down and learn so much about contracts and do some research on it. One of the things that I do want us to take into consideration is that, yes, we're under intervention, and it is a result of a lot of things that that should have been done that were not done. We're talking about selecting leadership that could make us the beacon of Montgomery, not only Montgomery, but the state of Alabama. Dr. Moore has proven leadership. She's had longevity in her previous system. And at the end of the day, if you, and I know where our range is, but let's keep in mind, if we want to pay for, if we keep the salary low, you know, we're going to continue to attract people that may not come with the skills and expertise that she has. We are paying her for her experience, and the last time I checked and did some research on CEOs of companies, since we like to use the business concept, companies pay CEOs that can produce and get results and outcomes. And so we need to keep that in mind, that we're not just hiring someone based on what we did in the past. We're hiring someone that's going to put our system on track, that's going to get the results, the achievement results that we need. And even in her short time, she has shown us, we've got a peek into what she can do. We've had a taste. I'd like to see everything now. I know we have to negotiate the contract, and we will. I was looking too at some of the counties that do have the higher millage rates, and they are able to pay a little bit more, and that's due to Montgomery's low mill rate is no due to this board, because boards can't evoke taxes. That's something that the county commission will have to do for us, in behalf of us and the legislature. But when I look at systems like that have fewer, because part of the process is looking at the ADM and LEAPS, which is the local agency personnel system. When you look at cities like Opelika, that's smaller than ours, with 4,000 plus students, they pay 160. That's smaller than our system, but they paid equivalent to what we paid. I heard Mountain Brook and Vestavia Hills mentioned. Mountain Brook, again, 4,000 plus students, they pay 210 plus thousand. Vestavia Hills had 7,000 plus students, and they pay 182,000, and this is since 2017, so I know things could have gone up. Birmingham has a city pretty close to ours in size as far as the ADM, and they pay 210,000. So my final thought on this is, as we take this into consideration, we remember that we want proven leadership, proven results. The intervention is, is here, but we want to make sure we have a person in place that can help guide us through it. She has experience with intervention. She was successful in that intervention, and I'd like to give her a chance to perform. And so I may be of a different sort. I'm looking to pay to negotiate to a salary, because I know at the end of the day, somebody's gonna be happy, somebody's not gonna be happy, or both parties will be unhappy. But I want us to, to pay a salary that when we keep it in place, because it'll be here for a minute, that what it will do for us is make us to have a critical eye, that whoever takes the seat after Dr. Moore chooses she doesn't want to be with us anymore, we will look at it from the perspective of, we offer a nice salary and we want the best person. Now, to my cons, one of the things that I'm waiting to hear from Spud about the housing allowance. I was wondering if we could do it, maybe for a short time, because my thing was, if you have a nice salary, I think at some point you can kind of take care of your bills. So maybe looking at a short time for that. And I like the idea about the leasing of the car. So that's my spiel on it.
If I just gave the contract to Mr. Porter.
Oh, okay.
Are you finished? Okay, Mr. Portman, oh, he's talking. I hear what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. But my situation is this, Erica, and you, like you said, you're new on the board. I think it would be ridiculous of us as a board to pay a $227,500 salary when we are cutting teachers, we are cutting personnel, and we are under intervention. If we were not under intervention, where Dr. Moore would have the authority to do anything and everything she wanted to do the way she wanted to do it, but she will have restrictions because the superintendent, state superintendent, can override her decisions. So really and truly, you're in this position, but it's not the same as if you were the superintendent of Vestavia Hills, because the state superintendent is not sitting over your shoulder looking at everything you're doing. And our money situation, we don't have one much reserved. It's like spending money that you don't have. And it's the little time that I've gotten to know Dr. Moore, I don't feel that she would feel that the necessity of having this kind of salary, knowing our financial situation. That's just like me going to get a Cadillac and I can't pay for a Volkswagen. I mean, you've got to really look at your funds, and I'd love to be able to pay her $227,000. That would be easy for me to say, but with our financial situation being as it is, and the reputation that we have as a school board, they would think we were absolute fools.
Well, I would agree with you there. I'm not advocating for the 227. I just said in negotiations that
Well,
we.
let us, at this time, I think we've heard from quite a few members of the board. Let's hear from Dr. Moore in terms of what she would be certainly agreeable with in terms of looking at what you heard so far, Dr. Moore.
Okay, let me say, first of all, I love being here. I've enjoyed working with everybody. And I think in the few short months, we've gotten a lot done. So let me just try to, if I can, give you a little bit more information. First of all, you have a really difficult task here. You're under intervention. That is not an easy road to come from like that, but it can be done. But it's going to take some really strong leadership to make that happen. And so you need someone who knows how to help do that. You're not working in a system where everything is peachy cream. You got a lot of issues going on. You've got advanced ed that has to be taken care of. That's not going to be any right either. So you got a lot of issues that, if you compare yourself to other systems don't have those issues. So that's number one. The number two, I kind of, did looking at the numbers on the salary. If you come in at $200,000, by the time I look at what I make retired, then look at what I'd have to pay to be here, and subtract that out of what would be left, I would make a couple of $1,000s more than I would make if I were sitting at home on my patio. And so that's a financial issue that I have to address, in all honesty. And then on the car rental, $289, but then you have lots of schools that have to be visited. So, there's mileage even our people who work, and go out and visit schools, they turn in mileage every month. So that's why that car allowance is typically you use your own car. I have a car, I have more than one car already. And so I don't have a new car, but I have a really decent car. And the mileage and the insurance and all that is part of this, not just leasing the car. And I don't know if you leased it, how the insurance and all that would be
Yeah,
covered.
they were saying with the taxes and all. And also, I looked at the fact that you had mileage up to 15,000 miles a year, that you could, as long as you kept within that 15,000 miles, then there would be no additional cost.
So the insurance and everything would be covered in that lease?
My understanding.
And so what about gas?
Yes,
So gas would be-
I've checked on that, too.
We should-
Matter of fact, I've talked to Mr. Dotson on that. Your fuel will be taken care of at 3 pumping stations that we have here. We have a pumping station on Marshall, one on Troy Highway, and then we have one down in Raymond. So any close proximity of those 3 pumping stations, the gas will be taken care of, but take it back out, transportation will build the general fund budget for the cost of that gas that's being used by the vehicle that you be driving.
So the most difficult part of this for me would be if after all of the kinds of things that would have to come out, of course, you don't, even though you might get, let's say you got $200,000, then a third of that every month goes to benefits and, taxes and things like that. So by the time you finish with the take home, I'm back to this again. By the time I finish with deducting all that out and the take home, the difference between what I make as a retired person and what I would make working every day, all day long and into the night and taking care of issues would be about $2,000.
Now, boy,
Are you following me what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a question. And I know we're at the 200, but how much, and just give us a figure, in terms of what you would be to satisfy you in terms of being able to give you at least a little more than what you had in hospital and make it comfortable for your end, how much more than the presented 200,000 that you would be, I guess, somewhat pacified, we might say, or be something that you'd be willing to work with, certainly not want to place you in any financial strain either as relates to where you are and then what we expect to go. Could you give us a figure that would be comfortable to you and this board that we could accept and move on?
And while she's thinking, what did you find out about that contract as far as the housing allowance?
Well, in this contract here, what was mentioned, it gave moving and other costs associated. It was from Wisconsin to here, up to a maximum of $9,000 for the moving. And then had 3 months that house that we had, she couldn't live by, and after that 3 months had ended, the superintendent had a choice of purchasing that home from the board or relocating to another resident. I believe what someone said, I think, Erica, you mentioned this, and that is we could probably provide housing for a while until she get everything stable. Then let's say 4 to 6 months, then she either take it over or find her something else.
I've already moved. I moved when I first came down here. So I already have a house, utilities, cable.
That comes with it.
I've already moved. Really moved.
Yeah.
I've already done that, so.
So your thoughts on the housing allowance is what?
Well, it just gave it for a short period of time. 3 months is what this had given because she had moved from a long distance. And that's the only housing that was, that occurred. And the other thing is, you know, we still have here life and disability insurance that we can take.
Well,
That's constant in all these
that's
contracts.
paid by the system.
Right.
That's not
That's
coming
paid-
out of
that's
her
paid-
salary.
I know, it's paid by the system, it's still money. that you got to
Yeah,
spend.
I mean, if you add it, that's what Melissa was saying.
And then we've
Put
got
it all
here,
together.
the
And you
last
got
automobile allowance was
professional
$700 per
leading.
month. Why don't we do this then?
We're waiting for her to
Why don't we do this and think
Why
about
don't we
this?
wait and see
Let's
what
let
she
her
has
give
to
us
say
a
Let her
first?
number.
respond.
You asked her for that.
I remember the car allowance we paid for Margaret, and she was here,
Nancy.
it was $700.
I think that it would be
$700.
smart as a board, instead of paying a monthly car allowance, I think it would be smarter and more efficient if we bought like a Hyundai, I don't know whether it be a Santa Fe, one of the ones that they make here in Montgomery to support our community. And we have it as a board vehicle for our superintendent, and like Mr. Porterfield said, the gas, you can use those 3 pumps. And we have fleet insurance for our MPS vehicles, and we could put that, it would be an MPS vehicle, and we would have it under MPS insurance, we would have the MPS fuel. Otherwise, I mean, leasing is just throwing money out the
agree.
window.
That's another avenue I
And if we would
was
buy
thinking
something
was-
that was nice, that, you know, could get her around where she needs to go, I think that'd be the smart, prudent thing to do.
I think, but if you look at the buses, we lease them and we sold them for nothing. I think leasing is smart since it's a 2-year contract.
We don't lease buses, Lisa, we buy them.
We buy them and then we buy them for 80,000 and then we sell them for 2,500 to 5,000, and that's my point, okay? It's, you know, it's really more feasible to lease if she's only got a 2-year contract. She's just said she has a car, so we could get her the nicest of the nicest car, like what Robert just said. Lease it. If we lease it, then who's the next superintendent? Are they gonna want something new too? It's just, I don't agree with buying a car. I think that's a waste.
Well, that's your opinion.
I'm not necessarily looking for a car because I have a car, and that's the reason for a car allowance. That way, I would be responsible for the car, the insurance, the oil changes, the tires on the car. And then that allowance also incorporates local travel from school to school within that amount. So that you don't turn in mileage while you're within the city, within the county in this case. You only would turn in mileage if you went outside of the county.
Okay.
So that car allowance covers everything. If the car breaks down, it's my job to get it fixed. All of that. So, and it also covers, again, if you're traveling back and forth between all of the schools for a month at a time, and you turn in mileage, it would probably be a whole lot more than that. Because I sign off on some right now where they go from school to school, and it's several $100s a month.
But Dr. Moore, how did it go up another 300? If we're paying you 700 now, what are you doing extra for the other 300?
Well, you would be seeing, I'm only here now as an interim, and so in this short time, I have not had an opportunity to get around to schools like I would in the run of a year. So you would put mileage on your car and on your vehicle or whatever. And that's not, I think in my last job, I got about $800 a month for car allowance. Some places, they do pay $1,000 a month in smaller systems than this. And I do understand that that there are some constraints, but at the same time, this is not going to be an easy job.
No, it's,
Some of the systems that we talked about that, where the salaries are in the high range and you have smaller, you don't have nearly the enrollment, but you don't have nearly the issues that Montgomery has either. So that's going to require a certain level of, I would say, expertise to get it to where it needs to get. And so my goal would be to try to real hard help you get back from under intervention. I think that's not normal to be under intervention. So to get you out of intervention real quick and to take care of the advanced ed and also work with all of our schools and our principals so that our children show increases in their academic performance. So if you're comparing, it's not apples to apples. This is not an easy job that someone would come in and take. Now, some people will come and take it. My issue is, I'm a retired person, and so even though I want to come and work real hard to come out of retirement to do it, and come out at a financially feasible level, for me, now I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, it would not, I need for it to make good financial sense for me to do it to some degree.
So what would be your number?
Mr. Porter, may I make a couple of observations, please?
Yes, sir, please.
With regard to the leasing or to the car loans, quite honestly, leasing is probably going to cause some issues. If Dr. Moore leases it, and she leased it for 2 years, the board cannot indemnify her. So if something happens in that 2-year period of time, I mean, that lease is gonna be in her name, and there are gonna be issues about who's gonna pay for that lease, and the board only knows, I hope she succeeds, but I mean, for some reason, she was dismissed in that 2-year period of time. You've leased the car for 2 years in her name, you cannot indemnify her.
But she said she has a car and she's happy with her car.
Well, that's,
Just wanted to remind you that.
That's where I'm going. I
Okay.
think that the simplest thing
Okay.
probably is.
I agree with you, Spud. I mean,
It's some
listening
type
to,
of a car allowance is the.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds-
listening to what you're saying, and having heard what Dr. Moore said, leasing will cause more problems than we really want. And if she's willing to take her own car and do whatever she needs to do with it, and we don't have to pay gas, and we don't have to pay the insurance and all of that, I think $1,000 a month is not bad at all.
I'm still waiting for the figure that she said she,
Yeah, but we're trying to figure out the little particulars too.
Well, I'd like to
I think
definitely,
she has a figure.
Okay, I got a figure, guys, y'all think about it along these lines now. Figure been presented is 217 with $1,000 car allowance.
What'd you say?
And no housing?
217, no housing. 217,000
217
a car a month, kind of.
What about 210?
and 1,000.
I was making 210 when I retired.
Huh?
I was making 210 when I retired.
What she said?
She was
She'll
making
make it
210 when she
210
retired.
She make 210 now.
So, and why are you thinking,
Well, isn't the best 3 out of the last 5? You don't lose anything,
It's
if you were
310.
making 210, and you're coming out of retirement and you're making 210, where you're making the same amount you were making when you came out of retirement, and so you only getting, a percentage of that in your retirement, they're not paying you $210,000 a year to be in retirement. If that be the case, I wanna go back in retirement again.
no, they're not, but they're basing my retirement on what I was making. And so what I was explaining earlier was, by the time I subtract out what I would be making as a retired person, and then all of the other overhead and expenses, then my difference in my retirement pay and working here would be about $2,000. Is what when you subtract it out and look at the numbers. And so then relocating, which I've already done. I already have a house. I already paid to move here. I did that about a week or so after I started working on the interim contract, rather than staying in a hotel. So I've been in a house since early March. So that was, when I look at the figures, it's not that the retirement is at 210, but the way it's figured, the retirement, then by the time I subtract out all of the overhead and other things that go along with relocating, my take home from 200,000 would only be about, by the time I took everything out, would be about 2,000 more than what I would make as a retired person, is my point.
Okay.
So, in effect, I would be dealing with a lot of issues for about $2,000 extra a month, is kind of what it boils down to.
So we're at 217
Plus
plus
1,000.
1,000 for
plus 1,000.
automobile, So where are we on, housing allowance?
She said
She's no
none.
housing, no housing.
No housing.
So, okay, so if you don't do housing, since I've already moved, could you do some one-time amount to cover,
The move,
yes?
I personally have no problem.
I won't have a problem with that,
I
because
wouldn't have a problem with a one-time
with one-time
amount,
moving, I don't
but
have.
not
long as
the
it's not a
17.
Well, we gotta know what the
How-
one time is.
Yeah, what about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking, would you consider that out?
Yeah, we'll consider that.
And what would be the
What would
fee?
you price, numbers along that line, Ben?
Okay, so I had to pay to get moved down here and get the furniture set up
Right.
and stuff, so
What
let me
number?
think about that for a second.
Why don't we do this then, Dr. Moore, let's make some concessions, can we move it down to about 214 and we take care of the housing allowance?
I personally cannot do to anything. I'm fine with everything else, but to anything, I could go, I just can't go to, period. Not with all these people losing their jobs. I cannot do that.
Well, that's a issue that we're gonna have to campaign for as far as ad valorem taxes, so
Yeah,
that
we-
we can
we're gonna
support, have
But we-
sustainable support for our system. But I will say this, 217, in my personal opinion, for the quality that we're getting, the experience that she's bringing, to me, sounds fair. You're not just getting anyone, you're getting someone like, really, she made a good point, you're getting someone that's going to come in and tackle a monster.
But you also had 3 other candidates, one of which trained her, that would take significantly less.
Well, that's not who we have now. We
I know
have to
that,
deal
and
with
that's
our-
why if she didn't do it, you would go to person number 2, person number 3,
that what
and you
Well,
would
let's see
offer.
where we go, let's see where we go.
That's not even on the table
Yeah,
now.
that's
Let's don't muddy the area, let's don't get it twisted.
I'm not getting it twisted. That's what I tried to
Let's don't
report
get
2
it
weeks
twisted.
ago that was going on. I'm just happy that y'all are negotiating, though at least something worked.
Well, the contracts are always negotiated, Lisa. You know, you sell houses.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
just gonna be real honest with you, and I say this with deep regret. But for me personally, I feel like we're at an impasse. I understand where Dr. Moore comes from, and I certainly don't know that I would come out of retirement and move to Huntsville for $2,000 more. But we are in a dire situation with our district. We are always being watched and made fun of and accused of not being good stewards with what we have, and I just feel like we're at an impasse. And you know, I just don't think that this is gonna be something that we can do right now. I think that it's something that I would hope that eventually we could, but we've got to have, number one, better funding, stable funding, and be out of this intervention before we can be paying salaries like what we're talking about.
Well, let me just interject on
Can
that.
I ask
Oh, go ahead,
Dr.
go
Moore a
ahead.
question? Dr. Moore,
Yes,
would
ma'am.
you be willing to accept this contract for 215? That's just 2,000 less than what you were saying. And listening to what you have done, you have already, you know, started the process when you came down to us as interim. I see what you have done for this system, and they don't give a rat's patootie one way or the other what we do, because they're gonna talk about us one way or the other. Because, I mean, it's already been pre-authorized, so to speak. But I know what you've been doing, I know what you can do, I know you've worked with intervention before. And we don't need to start this process over again till we have somebody who can do it. So we just, if you could sell for the 215, and we see where the votes are, and the people that can't vote for it, don't vote for it. It only takes 4 votes to determine your salary. And if you're willing to do 215 instead of I'll give you the other 2,000.
So it sounds like you already know that there's 4?
I heard there were 4 at 220 before this even got started.
Me too.
Well, let me just,
And I heard it from you.
Me too.
From you.
let me just
Sure are
add
real
in here
close.
that if we, Mr. President, if I may, if we could, with 215, since that's the number I heard last, offer that, and then after a review, maybe I'm just asking.
Performance-based.
Performance-based, and then after a year, offer an additional, whatever percent that we agree upon, to get her at an agreeable salary that.
I'm
I mean,
fine, let's
Dr.
vote
Moore, I'm
on
just-
it. I was 5
Dr. Moore,
off.
how do you feel about that? I just want to know your thoughts.
Well,
I can,
go ahead.
I told you I'd give you the other 2.
The other 2.
That's a
1,000 if she's.
okay, so would you consider the 215 salary, the $1,000 car allowance, and the moving allowance one time?
Yes, and we'll have to decide on the moving.
Well,
Well, let's decide on that here. Let's get that up.
What, if we gonna do it all these?
Weren't you the one that said, let's get everything out today? So let's get it all out.
That's what we're planning to do, just hold your horses.
Okay.
let one talk at a
Pump your
time.
brakes.
if you
So
don't mind.
where
Okay.
are
I
we?
was thinking about
We're at 215.
Spank me.
Let's look at where we are in terms of what the proposals are. So far, we have here proposal of 215,000 salary, 1,000 for car allowance,
Right,
and the one-time 5,000 move.
right.
One-time
One-time
moving 5,000.
moving fee.
And then that's where we are. What about the after a year evaluation?
Well, we
I
can
think
come
that
back
could
and
be
deal
written
with that
Okay.
another time.
Okay.
That's in the contract.
We gotta get her first
Let's
Okay,
do that, we
okay.
can do an addendum to this at another time.
and five.
Okay.
Right,
That's done.
so did she say she'd take the 215?
I believe
Yeah.
with the
Plus your
5,000,
I'll
she
give her
will,
the 2, because I
she
think
will
she
with
is.
the $1,000, well, with the
I don't wanna go
5,000.
through
give her,
again.
No, I
and we're
don't
gonna throw
either.
in a free burial policy.
Put them what?
We're throwing a what?
Said what? What you say?
Hell,
Say we're gonna
throwing
throw in a free burial policy.
But I already have my mausoleum at Alabama Heritage.
Well, that ain't yours, we were throwing in.
No, it wasn't really. It wasn't my mausoleum.
All right, let's go.
What do you think, you got her?
Yeah, I'm good.
No, what about her? What about the list?
She ain't gonna lose.
Okay, this is, I'm good for it. Okay. No, okay, that's fine, all right. 16, 21?
Throw in that burial policy.
No, I need more than burial policy for this. Oh, I know that. I know that.
What you said about my casket?
No, I didn't talk about yours. I told you, I'm not talking about yours.
All right.
I'm talking about hers. Dirty's over here telling me to throw in a burial plot and casket. Services.
Mr. President,
Before we make a
That's
move
21.
on this, it has been requested by Dr. Moore to allow her time to have a discussion with her attorney, bring it back to us tomorrow or later tomorrow. See tomorrow. Do we have a meeting already tomorrow?
we have a meeting Thursday. That's
Could you bring,
Thursday.
could we just put it on there Thursday
Lord
there?
have mercy, where did I hear that?
But Dr. Moore, as personally, you said what you would come out of retirement for. You said 217. So we're here today and we're ready to resolve the issue today. The sooner we get this out of the way, off the table, and move on, we can move on to bigger and better things that we have to do for the system. And I do feel that you are the type of professional that understand the dilemma that we're in, because you've been here, you hear the same thing about us that we hear every day ourselves. So, I personally would not like to put this off, because when you delay things and there's further discussion, then you come back with a bigger problem than you had when you were here. And, you know, it was a big commotion about the fact that we didn't have the contract when we were supposed to have the contract. So if we could just settle on this today,
I would
because
agree.
my thing is, you know, they said we didn't get a CSFO, we didn't get that. We're ready to make a decision, and we're basing that decision on what you told us that you would sell for, which was $217. None of us on here could go with the $227. We just could not do it with our students in the situation that we're in. But can we just come to some kind of conclusion today? Could you call your lawyer and talk to him about it or
Well,
whatever?
Mary, let's look at what's on the table. She has 215.
I know what's on the table, Robert.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So, before I came up with these numbers in here, I talked to my attorney and my financial advisor about what that looks like if I, salary-wise. And so that's kind of where we came up with that figure about the difference between what would be retirement and working full-time every day from 8 to 9 o'clock at night sometimes, and all the things involved. So that's why we came up with that $227.5. So what I'd like to do is be able to run whatever your offer is right here and by them and see if, again, my financial person has to tell me something, and my lawyer has to tell me something too. I mean, the lawyer will kind of look at what we talked about just from a legal perspective. The financial person will look at it from another perspective. So is it possible, could we do, if you can't do tomorrow, can we look at it as part of the board meeting later on? Can that be added to the agenda?
The board meeting today, as long as we know today, I think that'd be great. I'm fine with it.
Well, so what?
Today.
We got CSFO interviews Thursday. We don't have a board meeting.
Well, we can always do a call.
This is on Thursday. They think you're saying today at our 6 o'clock meeting? Okay.
You could have some
Can we add
information
that to the meeting
Yeah.
at
at
6
5.
o'clock? 5 or whatever?
Could it be at the top of the agenda, because I'm leaving at 5.
She has a granddaughter to go see.
So,
I got a 3:30 conference call actually with Dr. Moore's counsel's law firm on another matter in Huntsville, but I'll go back and I will have this put in the contract and back over here by, is it 5?
5 o'clock.
Well, I'm not suggesting that you write the contract up yet with the changes, just,
Throw those
Or
numbers
you
out.
just go talk to JR about this, and they will approve the terms at 5, and then, I
yeah,
can.
whatever,
I can do
yeah.
that.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay,
Is that agreeable?
actually, that's the wishes of the board.
Yeah.
That's the wishes of the board, so that's what we'll do.
We
Well,
gotta dispose of the
I move that this meeting will be.
Isn't her
going to
motion still on the
recess.
floor?
Whose motion?
We have a
I have a
motion
motion.
and second.
Oh, you have a
Yeah.
motion? I
I'll
didn't
just
hear it.
withdraw
Is
it.
there, is
Mr.
there,
President, I'd like to withdraw my motion from at the beginning of the meeting, please.
okay, is there anything else? If not, this meeting here is considered adjourned.
Recess. If we're gonna-
Recess,
Well, we gotta
No,
come
you're
back and take action on.
this meeting here is adjourned.
It's adjourned, Mary.
gonna
We're
add
gonna
this meeting
add
is
the
adjourned.
item.
You're gonna add it to the, okay.
At 5, this meeting here is adjourned.
Okay.
Don't even worry, you've got Trey.
We're gonna put it at the
Oh, we know
bottom.
that,
Yeah.
we just, and we'll just finish up before our 5 o'clock meeting, because it's supposed to be 2.5 hours, right, Susan? So we're starting on time, 3 o'clock, be out at 5. Okay.